tuning in to another episode of the Berardo Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Berardo. Each episode I focus on giving you fun, entertaining content on health, happiness, positivity, and anything else that's important to us humans. If you haven't already, you can follow me on Instagram at the Berardo, and don't forget to subscribe to the show by visiting theberardo.com/thepodcast, or just click that little subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. Thanks again, and enjoy the episode.
You're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
All right, ladies and gents, what's going on? It has been a couple weeks since I put out an episode. Thanks for bearing with me here. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I recently finished my backyard. Looks fucking awesome. So it's been a lot of work, and I'm working on a behind the scenes video and things like that to show you guys. So more to come there, TBD. But today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that's really hit me kind of hard the last couple of weeks in a good way, and I figured I wanted to share with you guys, which is the reason why I did this podcast. Is I want to get shit off my chest, and we're talking about downsizing to happiness, and that's kind of strange to say, because sometimes we think downsizing as a negative term to use, but I think it's extremely positive. And with this pandemic in particular, I really kind of started to understand what's important in life, and if money's important or if people are. And the answer is both. People are important, but so is money, right? And we get caught up, I think, with all the cool shit that we have. We think that money buys happiness, which, by the way, it definitely does buy happiness, but not in the way you think. You don't need more money to be happy. We have plenty of money to be happy, but we choose to use that money. The very little money that you do make, you choose to buy stupid stuff. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. Is I want to talk briefly about my journey, how we went from, I don't know why, but I thought of that one Seinfeld episode, Milan to Minsk. Our journey from Milan to Minsk. I don't know. I want to talk about my journey from about 6-7 years ago to where I lived in an apartment with a buddy of mine. Shout out Squirrely. And we had an apartment, and we're going out every night, spending money. And, of course, this is 6 years ago, right? I'm still 20-something years old, late 20s. And, we thought it was cool. We thought it was a good time. And point of fact, it was a great time. But it made me realize that I need to get my shit together. So I'm going to talk about how I started to get my shit together at that point, all the way until fast forward 7 years later, just bought our third home. Obviously redid this backyard, which cost some money, but I was able to do it because of proper planning. And now we're married. We're looking to start a family. This house is probably our retirement house, I would say. We're going to be here for a long time just because it's exactly what we want. And, we currently rent out another property. So bought our third home, rent out a property to get, some income. And of course, we're diversifying a little bit our portfolio financially. And we just recently purchased a Tesla. And this is not because we're making tons of money. It's just because of proper planning and all that. So I kind of want to go deep into that, and hopefully you'll stay with me. I know it seems like a little bit more of an autobiography that I'm going to go over with you guys, but I think you'll get a lot of good nuggets out of this. And hopefully if you don't need this, hopefully you can coach and mentor maybe people that do need it, because I don't know everything. So, but I think I can maybe help some people, and I think you can help some people. So hopefully you can gather this information and construct your own financial freedom and independence and happiness, and then hopefully teach this to others and carry on this positivity. And that's what it's all about. So before we get into that, though, I do want, of course, to thank our sponsors of the episode today. And I do want to thank Public Goods. So you can't really talk about sustainability, health and wellness without talking about Public Goods. It's the one-stop shop you're going to need to do your daily shopping. And for me in particular, I used to go to, the Publixes and the Sprouts of the world and all that, but Public Goods is that one-stop shop to get affordable, sustainable, and healthy household products. Literally everything from home living and personal care, like, wax pomade that I use, candles, even your daily premium pantry staples, like foods, canned goods, crackers, chips, etc. Public Goods has worked for years, searching around the globe for healthy and eco-friendly, innovative products like their sulfate-free shampoo. That is hard to say. Organic pesto sauce, and even their tree-free paper products like toilet paper and paper towels. My personal favorite products are their tomatoes. So now that you guys know that I have the Brick Oven Pizza, I've been using their fresh canned tomatoes that are already peeled, and you just dump them in, and it's just like my grandma used to make. Their tomatoes are great, but they have some great food, some great pasta, maple syrup, pesto sauce, you name it. I guarantee Public Goods has it. I encourage you to check out publicgoods.com. There's actually no risk by going to the site first to try it out, just because they're so confident that with their membership model, you're going to see, just by picking up, a handful of their products, not only are you making your money back from that membership, but they'll ship it right to your door. Instead of going to the grocery store, you don't have to worry about that. They'll bring it right to your house. By doing these little small changes, shopping with Public Goods, and to have a healthier and more sustainable life, it's going to help out the world, and it's going to help out your family. So thank you, Public Goods. Visit publicgoods.com. Use the code TonyPGA if you want a discount. Just do that at publicgoods.com, and right at checkout, use the code TonyPGA. I also do want to thank our friends over at Rainforest Bowls. So again, this episode's talking a lot about downsizing to happiness. Well, we don't need 17 different bowls and 25 different plates unless you had group gatherings all the time. Me personally, I just like to use my Rainforest bowls. They have tons of literally bowls made of coconut shells that normally would get burnt and tossed away. Sometimes they throw those away in the rainforest, places like Vietnam and the Amazon. They'll burn them and just get rid of them completely. Well, Rainforest Bowls, what they decided to do was take those wood cutoffs from trees as well as the coconut shells, and they create not just coconut bowls, but also utensils, straws, cups. They have all times of really, really great product. Check out their Instagram because they always post videos on how they create the products. It's super interesting. But their bowls in particular, I love them and their plates, but because every single one is different. Like it's really radical every time you get like a package of one. 3 or 4 pack, none of them are the same. They're all different because they're all custom made by wood cutoffs and coconut shells. So literally, again, instead of wasting things, we can use companies like Public Goods, companies like Rainforest Bowls, to where we can use sustainable and healthier alternatives on things we already do. And it's going to condense your space. Visit rainforestbowls.com and give your kitchen a dope-ass eco makeover. You can use the code THEBERARDO to get 20% off your entire order, and you could do that right at checkout, 20% off by using the code THEBERARDO. So thank you, Rainforest Bowls. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things. First, I want to give you a quick little elevator pitch, probably a couple minutes, of kind of my life and kind of where I started, and what obviously got me here with the wife and owning a few homes and all that jazz. And again, there's a lot of stuff I'm learning every day. All this stuff that I'm telling you, I didn't pick up myself. I learned through research, listening to other podcasts that were educational, and things like that. So, just because I'm preaching this doesn't mean I'm the best at it. I'm just trying to tell you that someone was able to help me 6-7 years ago, and there was people all across the interverse that taught and trained me essentially on these types of things. So I kind of wanted to spread the knowledge with you guys. So again, going back 7 years ago, I lived with my buddy Shane. Shout out Squirrely. And Shane and I, had a great time. We used to party all the time, and we used to go out and spend money. And we had a nice little apartment downtown Orlando because, of course, downtown Orlando, that was the cool spot to live. We thought it was the only spot to live. Of course, it helped with work and all that, but everyone wants to live downtown, right? That's the cool thing because you can just, back then we had to take a taxi, not an Uber. It's kind of funny, 6-7 years ago, like it was only taxis that we were worried about. But we, just would take taxis, or sometimes we'd be idiots and, drive to downtown, telling ourselves, we're not going to get wasted and we're not going to drive back. Yeah. You guys have had those conversations with yourself? Yeah, you're lying to yourself. Never, ever drive somewhere where you're going to have at least one drink, because that never ends up well. But, we thought downtown was a place to live, right? And, we were living in a cool little apartment. So 2-2. I think we're spending like out the door maybe $1,800 for the rent. You factor in utilities and electric and all that jazz. We were probably spending close to like, I don't know, $1,000 each, maybe a little bit more. Probably close to like $1,300. And I found myself like I couldn't afford to like pay repairs on my vehicle. And it didn't make sense to me, because we're almost going back literally 10 years ago, right? So I'm 25 at the time. And, we're staying here and we're having a good time and we're spending money and we're, YOLOing and we're living the good life. But we were finding ourselves like not having a lot of money, which was interesting because we both had good jobs and we couldn't figure it out. Of course, at the time I was smoking as well, like an idiot. So I'd be smoking a pack or two a day. So that was a waste of money right there. But I'm realizing now that I made plenty of money. It's just how I spent my money. That was the problem. And we were kind of living that fun life, right? And we always think to ourselves, we're told anyway to focus on today and not the future. You hear things like live for now and YOLO and there's nothing like the present. Yeah, is that true? What if the present sucks? What if what you're doing right now with your life is going to ruin the rest of the short lives that we all have? What if the present sucks a bag of dicks? What are you going to do? You're going to keep living by these mantras and these one-liners that Instagram influencers are telling you that get paid thousands of dollars to post an ad? You're going to listen to these YOLO, vacations, the Caribbean, all inclusive. Like, guys, this is the real world. Okay? You need to put together a plan. If you want a dope ass present, like a present day, if you want a dope ass present day, you need to have a future. Because if your present sucks right now, it's going to continue to suck unless you change it. Living for the moment and living like you only have one life and all this bullshit, that's good for some people, good for you. But for me, I wanted to start a family. I wanted, to get a wife. I wanted to have a nice house. I wanted to have a nice car. I wanted to have cool shit, right? But in order to do that, you got to plan. You got to make sure you got the money for it. So, when I was in this apartment, I realized after a couple years staying here and wasting this money on a rental, even though I loved my roommate, still do, shout out. But, I realized that this was not sustainable. This was not a good long-term strategy. Bringing girls there was fun, but it got a little funky at time with the two of us. Maybe I'll tell you some stories when I get him on the podcast, but it was not sustainable. We cannot do that forever. And one of us had to pull the trigger. One of us had to say, I think it's time. I think we got to cut ties, man. We got to grow up. But listen, man, that's a hard conversation to have, especially when you're 26, 27, right? Like, it's hard to kind of like tell yourself, all right, I think it's time that I grow the fuck up. It's a hard conversation to have with yourself, let alone to have with a friend, a family member, or a partner, right? So what I decided to do is I wanted to save up some money, and I knew I needed at least like first and last month's rent, right? So I wanted a decent apartment, but I didn't want anything fancy, and I want to live on my own. The reason I want to live on my own is that way I can control myself, and I wouldn't be forced into peer pressure or to do things, that sometimes the tribulations come with of having a roommate, right? Some of you guys know what I'm talking about if you have a roommate. So I decided to save up at least $750 a month. I found a nice little apartment in a shitty, like non-downtown part of town in Orlando, up in Sanford. If you Orlando folks know what that is. So, but I found a studio apartment. It was $750 a month. It was 790 square feet. So it was $1 a square foot. It was $800 essentially. but that included utilities except electric. So it included, your basic internet. I forget what it was. It wasn't Spectrum. It was like some, I don't know, whatever community thing they had there, community internet, just basic internet. And then of course it had, water and utilities and stuff. So, $800 a month, not bad. It was a studio apartment. Again, it was just super small. It had no walls. It was just, it was like a New York style, 1-bedroom loft. And that was almost, like I said, $800 a month out the door. So I knew I needed to come up with at least $2,000, right? So I decided to save up when I was in this apartment with my buddy of mine. And here's the key. After that, I didn't go out. So I saved money and then I didn't go out. I got that studio apartment and I didn't do shit. It's like literally nothing. I stayed home. And I did that for 1 month. It was incredible because I looked at my bank account and I realized, wow. So after 1 month of not going out and not doing little lunches, during work, doing little Starbucks runs, doing little dinners with buddies and grabbing appetizers and beers and doing trivia nights, I realized after 1 month, I already saved over $1,000. I mean, I'm talking saved, right? So I'm in this new studio. It's $800 a month. And I was able to profit $1,000 additionally with the same paycheck that I had, which was, by the way, $35,000 a year is what I was making when I worked at Coca-Cola. And I was able to save $1,000 in 1 month. And I said to myself, I go, wait a minute, hold on. So if I do that every month, if I could just save $1,000 a month, in a year I'll have $12,000. I said to myself, I go, what? That's a game changer. That means in a year from today, I can have $12,000 and I could put that down on a house. I could buy a house for $12,000. Right? Because depending on what loan you get, if you're a first-time homeowner in Florida, there's, discounts and perks and things like that. You can look that stuff up on your own. But $12,000 is more than enough. And then I also thought to myself, well, this is also kind of good because now I can afford to repair my vehicle. If there's issues there, I don't have to worry about that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go like 3 months of saving money. And then I'll go out and go back to normal. Well, long story short, about 2 years later of living on my own, I was able to save enough money to purchase my first home. Now, this is not ideal for everybody. I get it. What I'm telling you that story real quick is because you make enough money now. You do to do something like that. So you can either go live with your parents again, or if you're with a roommate, you can get out of the cool part of town and you can go to a shitty part of town. If it's 30 minutes farther away from work, okay, whatever. Think about that $9 in gas that it's going to cost you to drive to and from work additionally, versus being able to save $1,000 a month by getting a smaller apartment or a smaller studio or whatever you got to do to downsize a little bit. Because the interesting part that I don't think people realize is if you're the type of person that likes to go out a lot and you want to keep that lifestyle going, if you work, unless you work from home, if you actually physically go to a job, you leave the house at 7 o'clock, let's say you get there at 8, you're there till 5, you get home at 6. And then from 6 to, let's say, 11 p.m. is when you go to bed. So for 5 hours a day, that's what you're paying rent for. Because you're working and sleeping the other hours. So why do we have it in this head that we need a dope-ass apartment in downtown? But you're never there. When are you there? Okay, you work from home. Okay, so you need an office. But if you work from home, you're in your fucking PJs. So who are you trying to impress? If you're by yourself and you work from home, you don't need a dope-ass apartment. Like, what, for the gram? Okay. If you're going to do it for the gram, go ahead and do this. Get a shitty apartment and just decorate like 6 feet of your apartment. And that's what you gram. Gramming. I don't know what type of camera I have on my phone that makes that sound, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, if that's the case, then all right, decorate one part of your apartment. But there's no reason to live in a cool-ass apartment. So that's number one, right? So I knew living in that studio, I was able to save money. and I was able to get at least, I think I saved up $18,000 if I remember correctly, and I put 20 grand down on my first house because of course I had a nest egg already, but just by living on my own for a little over 18 months, I was able to save $18,000. So that's number one. So again, is this possible? Well, I'm telling you it was possible because 7 years ago I did it, and I just blocked off everybody I possibly could. And that was hard. I mean, I had to say no to my ex roommate that I just moved out with, or just moved out of downtown with. And, I had to say no to him all the time. But, keep in mind, I moved really far away, about 30 minutes, matter of fact, if you guys know Orlando, from where I used to live. And I did that on purpose because I knew I wasn't going to drink and drive that far because I was starting to get older and realized that that was a stupid decision if I did that. And, DUI is a lot more expensive than you might think, and it ruins your life. So I didn't want that. So I knew if I moved farther away, that would be a good kind of practice for me. And then I also knew that no one was going to come out to Sanford. So I kind of picked like a spot that I knew was nice and was safe and all that jazz. But I picked a spot where no one wanted to go, and no one did. I mean, we had a really cool pool at this place. It was called Solara. I don't know if it's still there, but it was a great little spot. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Now it's up and coming, 10 years later, but back then that was the only real apartment complex there. And I had a cool spot, it was a cool pool. It was a little gym. So, it was fun. It did its job. Now here we are, fast forward 7 years later. Again, I was able to buy a third home by using the same practice and just, being careful and saving money. So I'm telling you it's possible. I'm just also telling you it's extremely difficult. And it takes a very strong-willed individual to do something like this. And a lot of my friends are now starting to do it. And I think as we get older, naturally we kind of fall into this thing where we start to, mature a little bit and understand money and finances. But I think that the problem is that not everybody has someone to coach them on these types of things for whatever reason. It's a big problem with our education system, like college and even high school. Different podcast, we'll get into that, because I think that should be like a standard practice to teach break evens, saving money, investing money, real estate. I think that should be like a standard thing. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But when I first bought this first home, now I was able to purchase that home after just 2 years, living in the studio apartment by myself, a little bit closer to downtown where all my friends are. But, again, the first home I bought was not a fancy home because that was not my end game. The first home I bought was very affordable. It was kind of like in between the cool spots of Orlando. So again, I'm talking a lot about Orlando, so I apologize. But for people that know, like Winter Park, so this was in Castleberry. So it was kind of like, it had the Castleberry zip code, but it was pretty close to Winter Park. So when I told people where my house was, I was like, oh yeah, I live up the road. It's in Winter Park, because it was that close, right? So, but I did that on purpose because Castleberry was cheaper than Winter Park. That's just a fact. Winter Park, at the time, Park Ave was like the coolest spot. I'm sure it still is. But, that's the difference, right? Is you have to look at those little things, because you're talking, you could save $400, $500, $600 a month just by going a couple miles down the road in a different zip code or a different, school district, where maybe the school district isn't as good, but the houses are nice, and you might be able to save, if you want to buy a home, you might be able to save a couple $100,000 by just doing that. It makes a big difference. So I did my research and I picked up my first home. And, again, because I was able to put down a good amount of money, I also did the same practice, right? So because I bought the home, I spent a lot of the time the first few months, fixing things up. I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy any new furniture or anything like that. And I kind of did my part to do some, do-it-yourself projects and really occupy my time, pick up a hobby. This is when I think it was close to that time where I started to do a blog, not a podcast, but I started to do a blog. So I spent a lot of my time writing and journaling and things like that. And I just picked up a hobby, something to keep myself occupied, because I knew I had a mortgage now and I wanted to make sure that I had a nest egg. So I kind of, again, did the same practice, which, by the way, I should mention, my mortgage was almost it was a little bit more expensive with utilities and things like that because it was a house, right? So I had to get, nice internet. Obviously, the AC's running. It's a lot more things like that. So it cost me a lot more money than the rent that I had in the studio. But to put it in perspective, the studio apartment was $800 a month, and my mortgage was close to about $1,100, $1,200. So for a few $100s more, I owned a home versus being in a studio. So that's the type of self-control that I knew going into this thing, where I knew if I put the pedal to the metal and saved money for a year, 2 years, whatever, that I was able to take that money and purchase a home and lower my monthly expenses. So I challenge you right now, how much are you paying on rent? So if the answer is more than $1,500, you're crazy, because you're spending rent on something that isn't yours. Like, yeah, you could live there forever, but what happens if you want to move in 5-10 years from now? You won't have a nest egg because you're wasting so much money now. I say save money now, dump that aside, put it in savings, and then, at a certain number, say the number's 10 grand, that's when you buy a home. You got to figure out what that number is. Because, remember, I go back to $30,000 a year because it's just an easy number, but for 30 grand a year, if that's what you make, you're making, what is that, 2 grand a month, I think? Close to 3 grand a month, right? So if that's 3 grand a month, I mean, literally, if you do the math, let's say 2 grand a month just to make it easy. So if that's 2 grand a month that you're making, and your rent is $1,500 for an apartment, that alone should be a red flag. No? So cut your expenses down. Easy. And we haven't even talked about vehicles and car insurance and all that jazz. So, you really have to keep it in perspective of what you're spending on. And I go back to, you're spending that $1,500 a month by only being there after work hours. You wake up, you have breakfast, you go to work, you come back, you eat dinner, you go to sleep. It don't got to be special, man. You just need a place to hang your hat and lay down, no? Like, that's the difference. So I realized, I was like, all right, I got this place in Castleberry, and this is not the house I want to live on forever. This is just a starter home. I knew eventually I wanted to rent it out, which is what we're doing now. But a little wrench got thrown in the plan. I met my now wife. Fuck me, right? So, yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a hiccup, in a good way, obviously. But, I kind of got lucky with my wife because, she was kind of looking for a way to make her life a little better as well. Not saying it was me, but, she wasn't happy with her job and her living situation and all that jazz. So I think, once we got together, we kind of found weaknesses in each other and made those our strengths. And then we took each other's strengths and capitalized on it. So I think that's very beneficial as well, which leads me to kind of another point. A side point is, if you're with somebody that doesn't share your same interests or your same goals, or, barely makes money but only wants to go on vacation and wants to buy a bunch of shit on Amazon, you need to get out of that relationship ASAP. You need to drop that punk like it's hot. That is no bueno for you and your future. Unless you're into that right now. I mean, to each his own. But if you really want a better future, that's an easy way to fix it, is the people around you, make sure they're sharing the same mindset as you and they're intelligent and, they're street smart, but also book smart. You want a little bit of both. And I was able to find that with the wife because, again, she kind of had the same vision and goals as me, and she trusted me to make a lot of the financial decisions and the plan moving forward. And I kind of told her what the plan is. And as of now, you'll be happy to know that we are ahead of schedule. I met the future wife, right? 2 years later, fast forward, I propose. A few months after that, we decided to just get married. But we told ourselves that we didn't want a big, expensive wedding because I just don't believe in that. I think it's idiotic. It's almost as stupid as buying the new phone. The iPhone 10 is the same as the 12. It's just a little bit of different features. You don't really need those features, right? But we want it because it's cool, and marketing is very impactful with these bigger companies, and it's hard to say no. Same thing with the wedding industry. Do you want a fancy dress? Sure you do. But if the fancy dress didn't exist, you wouldn't want it because you wouldn't know about it, right? So you kind of have to get your mind out of that and stop looking at everything and stop wanting everything. And you have to, again, a great example is I love me an Oreo. Who doesn't love Oreos? You can do them with everything. You could split them apart and have them separately. You could put peanut butter in them. You could dip them in milk. You can crush them up and make them little cakes. You could do all types of cool shit with Oreos. I never buy Oreos. Ever. Because I fucking love Oreos. Easy. Don't surround yourself with shit that isn't good for you. It's just that simple. I'll have an Oreo if an Oreo's around and I happen to see one if it's at a buddy's house and, it's wrapped and everything. I'm not gross. But, I'm not going to go out of my way to buy an Oreo because if I know I have a shit ton of them, I'm going to eat a shit ton of them. That's the same thing we realized with weddings, is if we looked at the planning and this and that, we knew we were going to spend $20, $30, $40, $50,000 like most people. Madness. If you have the money and you want to do that, dude, that is all you. Congrats. If someone gave me 50 grand, like if my father or my wife's, parents said, hey, here's 50 grand. Just, we just want you to do whatever you want to do and have the wedding of your dreams. You know what I tell them? I says, keep your money. I'm good. Which, by the way, a lot of people offered us money. I'm good. We're going to take care of ourselves. If you want to donate to our wedding, here's a website. We did offer a donation page instead of gifts. But if they insisted on giving me 50 grand for a wedding, you know what I would do? I would buy 5 houses and put $10,000 down on each one. That's what I would do. If you're going to give me 50 grand, that's what I'm going to do. Fuck a wedding, man. That is one day, bro. Get over it. Stop watching their Kardashians. Y'all are fucking crazy. That type of money. There's people in Detroit that don't even have $1,000 to their name. And you're spending 50 of those dollars, 50 of those $1,000 on a fucking 6-hour period. The ego on some people. Oh my God. Don't get me wrong. I've been to expensive weddings and I love you guys. And that made you happy. But dude, I've had some issues before in the past with my personal life that I would love $50,000. And then it's amazing to me that people don't have the what's the word I'm looking for? The forthcoming, right? Like the ability to see so far in the future that money could not be spent another way. Like I would feel horrible if, God forbid, my family or something gave me 50 grand as like a gift to the wedding. And then 6 years later, 7 years later, that family member like lost their home because, the market went to shit and they went under foreclosure. Like, could you imagine? But that $50,000 is gone. You already spent it on a wedding. Ugh, I just can't. Anyway, that's besides the point. But we told ourselves we're not going to be those people. We're not going to spend a lot of money. If you want to donate to the wedding, we are more than happy to accept that donation. But, we didn't want any extravagant gifts or we didn't want any fucking skillets. We don't need that stuff, right? What am I going to cook 5 eggs at once? No, cook 5 eggs in one skillet. I just need one skillet. I already had a skillet. So I don't need those little wedding gifts that people get. Registry, get out of here. I don't need that. Come to our wedding. We're going to pay for it. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be one day. That was kind of our goal, right? And we did, and we had it. And it was fucking awesome. And it was just 4 walls, a big, like, kind of warehouse style venue. And, everything was BYOB. So you could bring your own booze. You could bring your own decorations. They don't give you a wedding planner. You just pay for the space, essentially. And that's what we did. And, we have friends. We're very fortunate that we have friends in the planning industry, the event industry, as well as the restaurant, beverage industry. And I got a buddy that's a DJ. So we paid all these folks, but we wouldn't pay like strangers to do it. A, strangers don't care. B, strangers charge you a lot more. Friends, not only do they help you out with their service, which our friends did, the DJs, the bartenders, the videographers, the photographers. So they helped us out during that time and did everything they had to do, their job, and we paid them for it. But then also afterwards, they fucking partied and they drank and had a good time and stayed at a hotel up the street and Ubered. Like, it's awesome. So everyone there was family. Everyone there was our close friends. Great fucking time. Great party. If anybody went to my wedding, I don't think there's going to be a person that was disappointed. And if you are, sorry. But I don't think you were. It was awesome. But, that was our goal, right? Like we wanted to pay for ourselves. And, with the money that people donated very generously, we were able to not break even, but we were able to help out, our financial situation a lot, especially with the new house. And then we decided to take, a little bit of money and go on a nice little honeymoon, a little all-inclusive honeymoon in Costa Rica. And it was awesome. And then, when we got back, we were like, all right, well, it's time to get back to reality. Because once you get back from that honeymoon, it's like, oh, fuck, I just spent this amount of money in this wedding. And, it's, we realized that we had to put the pedal to the metal. But we had a goal, We had a goal in mind. And the goal was to, both of us excel at our jobs and to purchase another home. And then we could rent out our first home. And about 2 years later, after we got back from our honeymoon, we were able to purchase house number 2. I got my first promotion in my company. And then, of course, she started her new job and was promoted to sales and worked very hard there. So, obviously a nice little bump in pay helped. And then we started renting out our first home. And then, we decided, all right, listen, now we got 2 homes. We're renting one, but the second home we bought was not a long-term home. It was really just something we wanted to do when we moved out to Tampa, and we just wanted to pull the trigger on something really, really quick. And we decided, all right, we've been kind of like saving. It's been 4 years. We've been saving. Yeah, we have 2 homes, but is it worth it? We're not really going out and spending time. So we told ourselves, all right, we're going to set aside X amount of dollars, which our amount was $200 a month. We put aside $200 a month, and we decided that we're going to use that money to go out. And whether that's with friends or whether that's going to festivals or a concert or something, that wasn't Monster Energy related, because obviously I go to those festivals already. But we decided that we're going to set a budget aside to do that because we had a nest egg already, right? And I think that's important as well to do that. But we also wanted to downsize a little bit more, and we wanted to kind of condense everything and get rid of the clutter. So we did a lot of that when we bought our second home. Even though we went from a big house to kind of a smaller house, we condensed a lot more. We donated more things, like, donated some more clothes and some of the tools and utensils that we weren't using in the kitchen and the garage and things like that. So we donated that, and I think that was very rewarding. And there's people out there that need those things, and we didn't want to just have them collecting dust. So we wanted to really downsize, and then that way when we do get house number 3, and it's our like long-term house, we wanted to just start fresh. And that was the goal, to have a little bit, less things, and then be prepared down the road. So again, this is, 4 years ago now. Well, now, here we are. We sold our second home, that home I just told you about, and we're in house number 3. And we used the profits from that second home to purchase this home. And we still rent out the other house. I know that's a lot of information, but, I think my point is here, I had a goal 7 years ago to do this. And when I tell you guys, it's so rewarding to be in this situation right now, where I'm sitting in my podcast studio that I've always wanted for years. I only started this podcast about 2 years ago, extensively a year ago, but about 2 years ago I started this, and I always wanted my own studio. And now my wife has her own office, and we have a guest room and, a potential room for the little Berardo that pops up, which, that was always the goal. And of course a big kitchen, and I built this big backyard, and it's so rewarding, guys. And it was very difficult. Again, we're talking 7 years in the making, right? When I first started this podcast, I told you the story. That's 7 years ago. It's a long time. It's a long time to ignore friends that I love, and to not spend money, and to not buy the cool iPad and the cool iPhone, and to not buy the brand new car. And, now we're in this situation to where we have everything I think we want. And of course, we're starting a family soon, hopefully. That's the next step in the plan. But, as great as this is, I found myself just looking around and being very happy and content. And then I was like, but we could do more. We could do more that won't impact our social life, to where we could still go out and we're not going to be hermit crabs anymore, because we're enjoying the fruits of our labor now, right? Like, we're in our mid 30s. Well, I am. I'm in my mid 30s. I'm ready to kind of enjoy. I'm not going to sit in a studio apartment like I did before. I deserve better than that. I've worked hard for this. I'm going to enjoy it. That's not what I mean. What I mean is kind of what this whole podcast is about, which is downsizing to create more happiness. I talked about a little bit before, when we talk about selling things we don't need and donating those, and taking that money that you sell them for and just saving it, putting aside, and also donating, because a lot of people don't have what we have, right? But we had 2 vehicles. We've always had 2 vehicles. And we just recently got rid of one vehicle, traded in the other, and got a Tesla. And the reason we got a Tesla is because I just think long-term that's the future. It's more sustainable. I don't know if Tesla is going to be the company. I think they're doing great things. And when you drive this thing, it's fucking incredible. The technology, and it's like a spaceship. So I know, I'm lowering the emissions that are going out to our planet. We're not using gas. We're doing a lot more solar. The house is mostly solar. We're going to get solar panels, and we have a lot of our lights that are solar. And I wanted to go that route for a long time. For a few years, I wanted a Tesla, so that was kind of a dream of mine to get one. Finally got one, but we got rid of another car. And the reason we did that, we're very fortunate. I've always worked from home. The wife just started working from home. But even if she didn't work from home and she had to go to work every day, I realized to myself it was selfish and stupid and ignorant. Just personally, I can't speak for you, but personally, I think it's completely stupid, if I work from home, that I need a car. Now, do I want to go out and run errands and do? Yeah, okay. But what is life-threatening and so important right now that we have to have 2 vehicles? We do everything together. For the past 4 or 5 years that we've been together, we haven't not done anything together. Unless I'm out of town or she's out of town, we do everything together. We eat together. We walk together. And I love it. And she loves it. No complaints. So we realized, well, if we're both working from home and we do everything together, let's get rid of another car and let's just have one dope-ass vehicle. And by the way, you might think a Tesla is expensive. Do your research. They're not. They're the price of a brand new Honda or a brand new Ford or a brand new Toyota. It's the same fucking price. Get the standard model. Don't be selfish and get all the bells and whistles. Just get the base. They're the same price. They're 30, 35 grand, 40 grand. So we're like, let's get a dope ass ride. And then, maybe 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, we'll buy another Tesla or something. But for now, let's save money because we're both working from home. And with a car payment and insurance, by getting rid of that other vehicle, we're saving $1,000 a month. Guys, if you could afford to downsize to one vehicle, think about that. That's $1,000 a month. Again, same thing I talked about in the beginning of the podcast. $1,000 a month times 12, $12,000 a month in a year we'll have. Then we'll take that 12 grand and maybe we'll put that towards our kid. Boom, college fund. Everyone's always bitching and complaining about not having money. You need to learn how to downsize a little bit more. That was the plan. So that's what we're going to do. Eventually, again, like I said, we might get another car, but for right now, we're fine. We'll be okay. With Uber and with emergencies and with friends and family close by, I could easily get a ride if, God forbid, something happens. But we're most likely going to be together. And that goes with everything. I think we need to reevaluate kind of where we spend money. When we bought this third home, I really looked at everything because I was spending so much money on this fucking backyard that I built that I was looking at everything. Like there was Apple was automatically charging me like that $3 or $4 every month to upgrade my storage and shit. I got rid of that because whatever. If I run out of storage, okay, I delete some pictures. Who gives a shit? My gym membership, I got rid of that. That was $30 a month. And I'm a big gym guy, but I decided to go to Play It Again Sports and buy some used gym equipment. And I just built my own gym in the garage. It saved me and the wife from going to the gym, dealing with the traffic, dealing with the gross, fucking disgusting gyms that are out there now. And it saves us, $40 each a month. So that's $80 a month you're saving right there. Again, these little things, you could pick apart your bank account If you only watch Netflix and nothing else, get rid of Hulu, get rid of Disney, get rid of HBO Max, unless you watch all those things. But if you watch Netflix 95% of your week, get rid of the other $20, $30. And then if you decide that you're willing to watch Hulu, then get Hulu membership. But start picking apart your spends, because we're throwing away money like it grows on trees, and it doesn't. Money's a thing that our government has to make up because we're so far in debt. And we continue to think to ourselves that we need certain things. But I think if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's we don't need things. We need people. That's what we need. We need people, and we need family, and we need close friends. When you start to reevaluate how much money you spend on a daily basis and what you actually spend your money on, you start to really understand that you waste a lot of money. And the little money that we do make, we spend it on stupid shit. And we could easily save that money for a short amount of time, suck it up, power through, and then buy something that's very beneficial to our loved ones, our family, our partners. That's what's important. And I think if you ask my wife if she regrets anything that we've done over the last few years, I think she would tell you the same thing I would tell you, which is it was very difficult at a lot of times, and we argued a lot about what to do and what not to do and when to go out and when not to go out. Of course we did, because it's hard. It's hard to get used to that, mentality. But I think the hardest part is not us getting used to it. The hard part was to block out the other noise. All of our other friends would text and say, you guys don't fucking do anything. You guys don't do shit. Why don't you do anything? Ugh, all you do is stay home. Well, these are friends that aren't our friends anymore. Because when we finally, like now, we're settling down and reaching back out to friends and say, hey, sorry, we've been kind of, MIA for a while. We're saving for this. We're saving for that. We reach back out to them and, they don't respond. Okay, fuck you then. Sorry, dude. Listen, I was trying to get my shit together. That's like, you're going to bust someone's balls if they're an alcoholic and they decide not to go to a bar with you? Dude, we were trying to get our shit together the last 4, 5, 6 years. We have no regrets. Now we're extremely happy and we got the house that we want to start a family. So I think each of us kind of need to reevaluate what we do on a daily basis. Look at our friends and say, dead in the face, listen, friend, I love you and I want to spend as much time as I can with you. But right now, I'm broke as fuck and I need to get my shit together. So I got a plan. I'd love for you to be a part of this plan. This is what's going to go down. You want to do this together? You want to save some money? You want to get squirrely? Maybe we stay home. Maybe we pick up a hobby. Maybe we start a podcast. Maybe we learn how to draw. Maybe we learn how to speak a new language. We read. Stay home, pick up some fucking hobbies, save some money. And then in a year, you could do so much shit. Just a little stupid example I gave you. $1,000 a month is all you need to save. Don't go out. Don't spend money. That's $12,000 a year. So in 12 months, you can take $12,000 and buy a house. You want your mortgage to be cheap every month? You bitch and complain about your apartment being so expensive? Get out of that apartment. Buy a house. It's cheaper. But, you got to make some sacrifices. The one mantra that I lived on that I think might help you guys is to I could probably sum up this whole podcast instead of it being so long-winded. So hopefully you guys are still with me. But the one mantra that I lived off of is, if you have to use a credit card to buy it, you can't afford it. So if you are using a credit card because you don't have any money in your checking account, you probably shouldn't be buying that. Or if it's food and you need it, okay, I get it. But then you got to look at your checking account and reevaluate what you're spending your money on. Because if you make $30,000 a year, I just gave you the formula. If you make $30,000 a year, that is plenty of money to live. You might not have the coolest shit, but we all got to start somewhere. How are you ever going to get the cool shit if you only make $30,000 a year and spend every single penny you have? You have to save money at some point. The question you have to ask yourself is, depending on what age you are, if you're 25 years old and you're making $30,000 a year and you have no fucking money and you're bitching about not having any money, you can either save now when you're 25 or 30, or you can go the same route that you've been going, and you could try to save money when you're 40. But then when are you going to start a family if you want one? You got to think about this stuff. You got to think long term. I think it's important. You know, we all make the money and we all want to live for now. But that's such a strange way to live our lives. Living for now, to me, doesn't make sense. You know, I want to enjoy the moment, sure. But live for the now, it's just a strange way to live. Especially if the now sucks. Like, what if the now sucks? You still gonna live for the now? Get things together now to have a better future for you and for your loved ones. It all starts with downsizing. Downsize what you have because we don't need so much shit. Trust me. You'll be okay without a lot of the stuff you have. But I hope this was helpful, guys. We still got a lot of work to do. Me and the wife, we have a lot of goals. We have a lot more things we want to do. You know, but we're only going to do that if we put together a plan. Don't just willy-nilly this thing. You only have one life. So living for the now might fuck it up. Live for the future. But you got to plan it. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. Until next week. Peace.